Hello everyone, I'm Rachel Sawani. I am a spiritual medium and intuitive coach. Welcome to my channel, Intuitive Soul Rising, where I share channeled messages for higher soul growth and ascension. My main purpose is to help you understand who's on your divine team in spirit, and those beings include the galactics, the archangels, the ascended masters, and many more. So please do check out other videos that share different messages from these beings so you can learn how to better understand their purpose, how they help us, and how to better connect with them. For those of you who are familiar with my content, please take a moment to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and do hit the notification bell also so you can be notified as soon as new content is released. As I mentioned earlier, I channel a lot of different types of guides. Most of them are of the higher dimensions, but occasionally I get approached by a celebrity guide. It's not always a guide or celebrity that I'm very familiar with. I've had a few interviews that I've posted with the celebrity guides that have approached me. The ones that I've posted on my channel are interviews with Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, and George Michael. So once I started connecting with these celebrity guides, it kind of opened this doorway for more to come through. So I am planning to do more videos where I channel these guides, and you can look for those in the future on my channel. In today's video, I'm going to bring forward Chris Cornell, who is the late singer of the bands Soundgarden, Audioslave, and Temple of the Dog. Now, out of all the guides I've channeled, Chris Cornell is one that I am pretty familiar with because his style of music is grunge music. He was very popular in the days of the grunge era, so in the days of Kurt Cobain, and that was pretty much the genre of music that I grew up listening to in my teenage years. So before I bring Chris in, I'd like to just preface this video with the fact that it's my highest intention to respect Chris and honor the story that he wants to share, the message that he wants to share, the truth that he wants to share with you today. I'm well aware that many other mediums have shared channeled messages from Chris Cornell on YouTube, and not all of those messages align with each other. There seems to be two major sides that conflict, and that's mostly around his cause of death, whether it was an actual suicide or whether it was foul play. So all I can do as a medium is set my highest intention and share the information as it's been presented to me. So with any channeled messages that you listen to, take what resonates, use your own gifts of intuition and discernment to feel out what feels true to you, what feels intuitively correct to you. And if you're not sure, ask your guides to help lead you to the path of truth so that you can come to a better place with it all. That's the best that any of us can do in these situations because there's so many variables, and as mediums, sometimes we don't know why certain information comes through the way it does. We just know that we're being called to share it, and we share it as best as we can. All right, so I'm ready to bring Chris in, and I know that he's kind of waiting for me to get that all out. Let me just tune into his energy right now and see how he's feeling, if he's ready. And the feeling is like, let's do this. He's ready to rock on. Okay. He does have a rather calm and peaceful energy right now, which is good because that's kind of what I need. I do get a little nervous sometimes with just starting off these interviews, but I've spoken with Chris many times, and I can honestly say he's a very, very gentle soul. He's very polite. He's very gentlemanly like, which kind of surprised me. I'll tell you a little bit about how we met, because that's how I usually like to start. But before I tell you that, I'll just kind of go over just the general topics that I want to cover with him, so you know what to expect. Basically, we're going to talk a little bit about Chris's personality, what he's like, how he wishes to help people as a spirit guide, what is his main message, why is he coming through. We'll talk a little bit about his death and the circumstances surrounding that. And then we'll touch on his Starseed heritage a little bit. We'll talk about what Ascended Masters he most resonates with. We will hopefully get into a little bit about his music, how he feels about his legacy, the legacy left behind, any advice that he might have for mediums and people wanting to expand their intuitive abilities, and then any last words. So I'll try to leave timestamps on the video too, if you want to kind of move quickly through some of those questions. But starting off with how we met, so I grew up in the grunge rock scene, or that was the genre of music that was popular at the time that I was a teenager. So I was very, very familiar with his music, as the band Soundgarden. I wasn't totally into it. I think I liked his music by Audioslave more, but aside from that, he wasn't like one of my top favorite bands or anything like that. So I wasn't a huge like follower of their music, but I did like it, and I was very familiar with it growing up. And in 2008, I saw him in Chester at Lincoln Park at a concert, and I connected with him there in a way that I just grew to have a better appreciation for him as a vocalist, as an artist, as a performer. I could read his energy. It was very pure and high vibrational. I've been to a lot of shows, and I've seen a lot of people in that genre of music perform, and I can tell you that Chris is very high up there in terms of his vibration as a person. And so my aunt, who's very much a rock and roller, lead singer of a band most of her life, she's older now, but she's huge fans of many of these different bands and follows them way more than I ever did. But she asked me one day to channel Chris Cornell, like maybe in April, and I happened to be filming this video on July 15th, which is 5 days before his actual birthday. So he was a Cancer, and he was born on July 20th, and he passed away in May of 2017. So I think she asked me to channel him around April, and I did. And I was kind of surprised at how clear he came through. It was like I could see him physically, like in my room, like in my mind's eye, but very clearly. He kind of sat down, pulled up a chair, was very gentlemanly, like very polite, very like gentle. And I had never actually heard the guy talk in real life. Like I had only seen his music videos, him on stage, but never heard like him speak. And so I was questioning that. I'm like, am I picking up on his vibe right? Like, is this Chris Cornell? Because he's kind of a hard rock type of guy. I just wasn't expecting that from him. And so, you know, I got some messages out. I channeled some messages. He came in really clearly and told me a little bit about his personality then. And he had me play a song, which is called Show Me How to Live. And I later found out that that's the song that my aunt did a cover to of his, which is an Audioslave song. So I didn't know that at the time, but I was like, yeah, he came in with the song Show Me How to Live, and he wanted me to watch this video to pick up on his like vibe through the video. So long story short, I was still thinking in my mind, am I connecting with him? I was kind of listening to that song, and as I'm listening to that song, he's showing me a picture, an image in my mind's eye of him like playing the drums to that song, like jamming out as a drummer to that song. And I'm like, why are you drumming to your own song? Like, that's weird. You're the singer. Interesting. Then not 2 minutes later, an interview with Chris Cornell, I was like trying to find an interview of him because I wanted to hear him talk, because I wanted to make sure that, like, you know, this was the right vibe of this guy. I'm like curious to hear him talk now because I hadn't heard him before speak. And the first video that comes up on my feed, I click on. This is like 2 minutes after I have that song playing and that image of him drumming, and I'm questioning that. I play this video, and within like the first couple seconds of the video, someone's asking him how he got into Soundgarden, and he was describing that he started off as a drummer, and he wanted to be like the best drummer he could be so he could find the best rock band, but then he ended up realizing that in order to find the best rock band, you had to create it yourself. So that's when he started looking for members to be in a band, and he ended up moving into singing. So just a funny, interesting sign, and another way that the guides will come through with information that you wouldn't necessarily know, as a way to confirm your connection with them, especially if you're doubting that you're actually connecting with that person. So that was good confirmation for me, and you know, I connected with him many times after that, and kind of got to know him a little bit better, his vibe as a guide, and even how he wanted to help me personally as a spirit guide. And very sweet, sensitive soul. I really got like a very nice vibe about him. But what really struck me is, as I was learning more about the situation around his death, and that people were not convinced it was an actual suicide, I started getting led down the path of like researching that more and getting more facts. And as I was getting more information on that, I was getting less and less of a desire to actually channel him for a video, because I'm like, this is just too much. There's a lot going on here. A lot of dark energy too around some of the stuff that I was reading, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm equipped to do this, or if I'm ready, or if this is even what I should be doing. I know other mediums that I respect that have taken on this Chris Cornell, and it's fine, but I just was not sure that I wanted to go there with it. So in May, it was Friday the 13th, actually, I had a dream, a very vivid dream, with Chris in it. And it was the first time that he came to me in my dream. And it was very clear he was showing me, he was giving me a message through this dream. And without getting into all the details, I was basically hanging out with him and his entourage and his band, as in maybe Soundgarden. And he was kind of showing me things. And anyways, I got a very clear perception of like who he was. I feel like we connected in that dream. I learned a lot about like what was going on in his life maybe before he died, and what some of the information was that he wanted me to share about not just maybe how he was feeling, but just what some of the truth was about how he died. Anyways, I woke up from that song when I got like the main message, which I'll share later in this video. When I got the main message that I was supposed to get from that dream, I woke up at that moment, and I opened my eyes, and I just looked like by my bed, and I could see a person standing there. And I thought it was my husband, standing next to my bed, just kind of like standing there very peacefully, just looking down, kind of looking down at me while I was sleeping. And I thought it was my husband, and then I saw them move, and I realized that I could see through this being, that it was not a person, it was a spirit. And I've never, ever, ever seen a spirit in person like that before. I usually see things clairaudiently. Not clairaudiently. I usually hear things clairaudiently, but I usually see things in my mind's eye. So this was like actual. I could see the image in the spirit, and I could see it move. And it was about the same height as Chris Cornell, because he's about the same height as my husband, same type of build. So once I recognized that that's who it was, I felt like I need to look at the clock right now. I know that there's always synchronicities with the time in moments like that, and sometimes meaning in the numbers. So I looked at my phone and I saw it was 3:18, and I thought, that's interesting. It's not like 333 or something like really significant. But then as soon as I had that thought, I'm like, wait a minute, 3:18, 18 seems to have some significance. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't he die on May 18th? And it was May. So it was May. I'm like, what day is it? Look at my phone. I'm like, it's Friday the 13th. May 18th was only 5 days away. I also woke up with the song playing when I woke up from the dream, Say Hello to Heaven, which is a song that Chris Cornell performed with Eddie Vedder through their band Temple of the Dog. It was a tribute song to one of Chris's close friends, Andrew Wood, who had died kind of unexpectedly. I can't remember what he died of, but it was very tragic to Chris. But anyways, that song was playing in my head. So it was like, say hello to heaven. And I'm seeing him like standing right there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and then it happened to be 5 days before his actual passing. And it would have been 5 years to that day that he had passed. So needless to say, those types of messages coming through are very, very powerful to experience, and not something to just push aside. So he's one of the guides that if I ask for a sign on the radio, if I'm like, hey, I need to know that you're around. Was that really you? I need you to play me a song. It'll come on within like a minute of me asking. And it's not like they're out there playing Soundgarden all day long these days. That's his music is considered, older. And so anyways, just putting that out there. I'm going to share a little bit more about like what the dream is when we get to that part. But I just wanted to share that up front as to like the connection that I have made with him, and why I'm pretty sure that we're connecting, and that he wants to come through. So obviously he's waiting. So that's how we met. So the next question is, describe your personality. What are you like? Yeah, tell us about yourself, Chris, so we can kind of get to know you a little bit better, kind of how you presented yourself to me the first time. He's like, well, I'm kind of a nice guy. Nothing special, to really talk about there. Like he's saying, I never really took the rock star status, too seriously. Like I'm humble is how he's showing himself. I always considered myself pretty humble when it comes to like the music scene and what you might expect of a rocker. He's pretty laid back. He took his music seriously. He gave his all. He performed, with all he had, and he shared all he had with the world. But he's really pretty a mellow guy, pretty down to earth, pretty laid back, likes to have fun, likes to joke around. But generally speaking, he's not all wild out there, he's pretty low key, likes to keep it low key, he's saying. So, and that's how he definitely presented himself to me when I first asked him the same thing, and I was a little surprised. So how do you wish to help people as a spirit guide? Why are you coming through now, and how do you wish to help people as a spirit guide? Well, I'm coming through now because there's just so much going on in the world. There's just so much confusion. There's so much chaos. There's so much distraction by the media about what's really going on under the surface, in the underground. There's a lot of activity in the underground, and people aren't talking about it. People are just accepting things for face value, and they're not questioning the narrative. They're not doubting what's being shown them. So he's saying, I'm a truth teller. I'm here to present the truth. I'm here to present another perspective, a different version of the truth that's been presented or shared about me to those who are ready to listen, for those who are feeling my words, who are ready to hear the truth. Because there's a lot of misinformation, he's saying. And that's part of his higher message. But there's more. There's not just that. As far as how he wants to help us as a spirit guide, he's interested in helping us learn the true value of what it means to live, of our life, what it means to have a life on earth, and how to cherish that life, how to cherish that time, how to utilize that time to really honor yourself and be true to yourself and stay true to what you value and you love the most. And it's all about integrity for him. He keeps saying higher truth, higher meaning. There's always a higher truth, higher meaning, and higher purpose in the way that we live, even if we don't see it, even if we don't see our own higher purpose or why we're here, why we were created. There's meaning to life. There's deeper meaning to life. But we have to learn to let go of some of the bullshit that we've been taught. We have to learn to let go of some of the demons that we carry, that carries us into the abyss. And I kind of remember him talking about this before when we first met. Would you like to share it now, Chris? He's like, yeah, there's a lot of demons. There's a lot of negative entities, negative energies out there. It's really easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of it all, the energy of it all. He's talking about energy, really. It's like black energy. Like, he's talking about the black hole sun is actually what he's saying. He's like the black hole sun. He's saying it now. It's easy to get caught up in the black hole sun, you know. It's easy for that to suck you in. And it literally will take your soul. It'll take your soul essence. It will take the life right out of you, because it's not true to who you are as a divine being, as a divine creator, like a creator being. It just weighs you down. There's a lot of dark energy in this world that weighs you down, that's put there, that's meant to weigh you down, so you can't access the higher meaning, so you can't access your higher purpose and your higher role for being here. So you really need to be able to, he's saying, as a spirit guide, he really wants to help you. He wants to carry it forward, is what he's saying. So how are you saying this, Chris? He wants to help you carry the mission forward. So he's kind of talking about his mission. His mission was all about freedom, is what I'm hearing. Freedom from tyranny is what I'm hearing. Freedom from the man, the system. He felt weighed down by the system. This is coming from a higher perspective, he's showing me. This isn't necessarily the Chris Cornell talking as if he was Chris Cornell on this earth, because he's seeing it from a higher perspective in a higher dimension now. He sees his life from a higher perspective now, so he can see where he went wrong. He can see where he got caught up in the black magic of it all, the stardom of it all. It wasn't so much fame that got him. It was more just being around being in a scene where there's a lot of dark vices, he's calling it vices, like dark energy, like vices, that would just eat away at your soul, that would pick away at your soul. He's saying, yeah, I had a very lonely childhood, so that really, that really made it like easy for him to get caught in the trap of the addictions and the drugs and the disillusionment of it all. Because once you get into that like fear-based anxiety mode, you're not seeing very clearly anymore the world around you. You know that there's beauty, you know that there's light, because you see that at parts in your life, but you still feel a lot of pain, you still feel a lot of heaviness, you still feel a lot of sorrow. It doesn't make it easier being famous. It doesn't make it easier playing in front of a crowd of people that love you and are chanting your name and just, buying your records and listening to your music. It is a reason to keep on living, though, to know that you've touched the hearts of many, to know that you can speak to the hearts of many souls who feel lost and abandoned and neglected and abused. And that's how he has felt most of his life. He's felt quite lonely. He's showing he felt quite lonely in his childhood. He had a very bad relationship with his father. His father was a very abusive man. He distanced himself emotionally from his father. He clung more to his mother. Interesting tidbit about his mother that I didn't find out till more recently, after he had already come through. His mother is known as a psychic or had psychic abilities, and I think she was like an intuitive counselor of some sort. So he's very tuned to the psychic realms. He's very empathic himself. He's showing he was very empathic as a kid, and that's why the world felt harsh to him in many ways. But how are you saying that, Chris? He felt the need to protect himself, but he also felt like there wasn't enough he could do to protect himself. He just felt like he wasn't fully prepared for how to handle like all of the emotions, all of the ups and downs, all of the roller coasters, a roller coaster ride. Just the experiences that he went to. He lost loved ones. He, witnessed close friends dying at an early age. So death was always present with him. He was always intrigued by the mystery of death, and he wrote many lyrics around that. He didn't really have all the answers. He didn't feel like he had all the answers, but the answers were all around him, but he kind of just stayed open to it all. He just tried to appreciate it all, life, as much as he could while he was here. But he did have some very dark moments. He definitely struggled with suicidal thoughts. He struggled with anxiety, social phobias. A lot of this in his teenage years, he's showing in his younger years. It got easier, a little bit easier with some of that stuff when he got older, but then he got more into drugs. So it was just a way to ease the pain. It was just a way to ease the sorrow. And he got really into alcohol as well, and that kind of what led him to dabble with other drugs and struggle with addictions. To Oxycontin, I believe, is one of them. Many different pills is what I'm hearing. But this was all part of like what the rock star scene was all about. It was just very much in your face and almost accepted as part of the norm. It was normalized. It was even idolized to some degree. Nobody really questioned it. It wasn't like anybody was really looking out for your best needs and interests. It was just kind of expected, and it was accepted. It was okay. And so he experimented a lot in those years. So he kind of wants to go back to like how he wants to help people or why he wants to come through or help people as a spirit guide. So this is funny that he kind of shared this with me, but he wants to be like an addictions counselor. He really wants to help people through their dark times. He wants to be a friend on the other side to lift your spirits. Because with grace and humility, he's saying, because his presence is very graceful and humble, his music, his essence that comes through in his voice, it's so beautiful. There's so much beauty in his sound, and the way he sings that, and his vocals and his lyrics even are so deep. There's a lot of depth to his soul and to his message through his music that I feel he really left a legacy in that way. And he's agreeing with me on that. But that kind of touches on, well, it's going into his legacy, but yeah, his legacy in music was really about like many different genres. He didn't just stick to one genre of music. He explored many different genres. He enjoyed many different genres. He was very much like David Bowie in that sense. And David Bowie was one of his idols growing up, was one of his most, him and John Lennon, I feel like he's showing, were like two of the top for him, music idols that he had as a young kid and growing up. And yeah, and so would you like to talk about David? Because it's interesting, and I'd like to just share this note, and then let Chris go on. David, I've interviewed him, and I did a 2-part interview with him, and it was the second part interview, and it's called Under Pressure. I'll leave a link to it here on the screen right now, to the second part of that interview, and it's towards the end. It's the very last part of the interview, where it's like, any last words? And David Bowie kind of shocked me because he brought up Chris Cornell, the song that is the title of this video, which is Be Yourself. And he was basically kind of hinting that Chris Cornell was going to be the next guide that I brought in. Even though I knew I was connecting with Chris Cornell, I didn't know at that time that, I wasn't certain at that time that he was going to be the next guide I was actually going to bring in. But David Bowie seemed to know, so I wasn't fully aware of their connection at the time, but I later found out that they did have a connection. And Chris, you did meet David in real life, did you not? Is David here, by the way? I'm hearing David like, yes, of course. Of course I am. He was giving me the signs. Him and Freddie Mercury, actually. I can hear Freddie's energy, or feel Freddie's energy kind of with David too. Always kind of checking in, making sure things are going well, going smoothly. But with Chris, yeah, he was an idol of mine. He really appreciated his music, and he learned a lot about him from as a musician, and how he handled his career, and how he was able to kind of stand the test of time, how he was able to kind of remake himself and like live out longer in the spotlight, in a sense, with his talent, with the way he expressed his different styles of vocals and music. So he did meet David in real life at one point, and he said he was just like shell-shocked, like just meeting your idol. Like, he said he was very polite, though. He was like the most polite man to Chris, but he was definitely nervous, he said, meeting David. But that was definitely a highlight in his life, and he very much respects him, and happy they're connecting on the other side and able to like share in different experiences, musical experiences over there on the other side, or share their talents over there on the other side. It's kind of what he's saying or showing. It feels like they're laughing, though, so that's interesting. Okay, so you want to help people as an addictions counselor. I'd like to go back to that. In what way? I would just like to be there for them, just to let them know that they're not alone. A lot of people listen to my music. A lot of people that listen to my music, sometimes they're in a dark place. They find solace and comfort in the lyrics, in my voice, and in my vocal range. He's highlighting. He just has a very unique sound to his voice, and it's almost angelic. I mean, it's just very beautiful, but in its own way, in its own unique way. And it does play to the heartstrings. It does lift one's vibration. And I've noticed that myself when I listen to his music more and more, especially since I've connected with him. So he's saying that people that connect with him on a heart level and kind of see his soul and see the true soul essence that he was as Chris Cornell, as a performer, they feel his presence around them, and they don't feel alone. And he just wants to help people out of that dark place. He's just saying it's not worth it. It's not worth giving your life away to alcohol. It just clouds your judgment. It clouds your view. It clouds your ability to perceive what's true and what's not. He's saying these days you're presented with a lot of false lies, distortions, and there's just a lot of dark energy in the world, and it's easy to get caught up in that. But he wants you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. He wants to show you that there's more to life than just like sorrow and pain, that there's beauty. There's a lot of beauty in the world, and you can find beauty in suffering. Through suffering, you can still find, you can get to the other side of that, is what he's saying. You don't have to do it alone, though. So he's wants you to have help. He wants you to feel supported, and like you have someone who's always there. And he's saying, learn from my lessons, learn from my life, learn from the mistakes that I made. You know, he had a lot of fame and fortune, but he got stuck many times, and he was able to pull himself out, but never fully 100% completely. So he does say that the dark kind of swallowed him up a little bit, kind of ate at his soul a little bit, and he kind of felt like weaker towards the end. He's saying that's why a lot of people questioned where he was at, like mentally and emotionally, like towards like maybe the last year. He did relapse. He was on prescription medication. I believe it was Ativan, for anxiety or to help him sleep. Not 100% sure. I'm not very big on the drugs and the pharmaceuticals and stuff, but I do know he had a prescription, things to help him sleep. He says he has nervous anxiety or had nervous anxiety. It was a coping mechanism, he's saying. It was a coping mechanism. You know, he did feel a bit alone, especially being on the road and being away from his family. He loved his children. He genuinely loved his wife and his children. He was a family man. He was very much in love with that part of his life, but there were just times where like the shadows, like the shadow aspect, just there was just, it had a grip on him. It was like this fear had a grip on him that it felt like negative entities almost around him, like he couldn't quite get out of the dark. He's saying he just felt really weighed down, and the drugs didn't really make it any better. It just kind of dulled and numbed the pain, so he could get through like his waking life a little bit easier. But there's a lot of contradiction with him, I'm sensing, because it feels like on some level he genuinely loved his life. I'm feeling a bit of both. I'm feeling a bit of like a mix of feelings right now is what he's showing me. It wasn't always one way. He has a very light side of himself too. So he's not trying to get all serious and dark on us, he's saying. He has a very humorous side, very lighthearted side, very playful side. He's not always so serious, but it is a serious topic. So he is wanting to get his point across that he's going to say he did not kill himself, although I did not commit suicide. I was in a dark place. I wasn't at a high point in my life at that time, and a lot of people could see that. And that's part of the reason why he felt like he was a victim to the circumstances, to the own circumstances that he kind of created for himself in a way. Because he doesn't want to give the sense that we're powerless over our own choices, that we all make our own choices in life, and we're not victims by any means. We're not victims to the system, to our circumstances. We have to learn to like stand on our own 2 feet, and learn to like ask for help when we need it. We need to be honest and real with our feelings and where we're at in our lives. And when we're at a low point, we need to protect our energy, he's saying. We need to have energetic boundaries. We need to have protection, our sacred space. So he's wanting to just draw your attention and our attention to the fact that we have choices, and it's important to make better choices when it comes to opening yourself, taking drugs. You're really opening yourself up to these lower vibrational like ways of thinking. He's calling it like demons and negative entities, but it's just like holes in your auric field. It's just it drains your energy, depletes your energy. It's not life-giving. It's not a life-giving source of energy. It's a very depleting, emotionally draining energy, and it causes an imbalance in your system. And he's talking about like hormonal imbalance that can stay with you the rest of your life. So I believe he's highlighting a time where he took PCP or some type of hallucinogen when he was very young, and that sort of is what triggered him to start having these panic attacks or social phobias, where he would just not want to leave the house for a while. And it took him, he was also shy, he said, naturally shy. So even as a performer, it took him some time to really come out of his shell. But he just felt so natural on stage. Like there was just this side of him that really just loved to sing, and it made him feel so much powerful. It just gave him that like connection that he felt. It gave him that high also, in a good way, in like a natural, organic way. And that was what he really lived for, was his music and performing, and for his fans who he genuinely loved, he's showing. But he had a lot of passion for his music, and that's what really saved him through the darker times. Now, getting into the question of suicide, a lot of mediums, when they channel him, he's saying they pick up on that energy of like, yeah, he was questioning. And sometimes they'll just take that feeling and they'll go with it. But it's not necessarily the truth of what happened to him. And he wants me to talk about the way it's been presented to me. So he came to me in a dream. Well, before that, he had me go a little bit down the rabbit hole, even though I was kind of, hesitant to do so. I couldn't resist. I was like, this is Chris Cornell. He keeps coming through. It feels like a very real connection. He's telling me that suicidal, yes, suicide, no. It's getting me thinking and wondering, and I was seeing information. So I started to see like what's out there about this. And it wasn't that hard to find more and more information, and some of it. So what I'm going to say here, and I'm going to stop myself because I don't want to go into the details of what I found. What I want to do is present to you the idea that there might be that there's another side to the story, but it's going to require you to do your own research, because I'm not going to just share with you all there's autopsy reports out there. There's information out there that's not that hard to find. And if you know where to look, it's not that hard to find. So I just encourage you, if you're curious, to do a little bit more research. But I'll just tell you that based on the research that I have done, it seems to fit with the idea that there is more to the story than just simply he hung himself. So again, I'm not here to like draw, like, I don't know, it's not my intention to, be out here, trying to, I don't know. It's just it's an awkward topic to talk about because it's not typically what I would share. And he's saying, it's okay, you don't have to talk about it. He's not really even here to talk about that. With me specifically, it feels like, why... He just wants you to know that there's another truth, that there's another message out there, and to not buy into all that you're told about. There's a mystery around his death, and if you want to look into the facts of it, look into the facts of it. But what I've said is legitimately like what the research shows. So it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up, like, to me, to my logical brain. There's definitely some like red flags when you get more into it, but not everybody needs to know all of the details about it. But the dream that when he came to me. So there's also a theory about, okay, I won't get into that. I'll just tell you my dream, and then I'll let you guys figure out what that means to you. If you've heard this, great. If you haven't, I don't know. But my dream that he came to me was, in my dream, we were with his band. He was with the band, and they were getting ready to put on a show. And we were kind of hanging out. I think we went to an ice cream shop, and that was kind of cool. We were like at a mall type of place. And he had his whole entourage around him. There's just like people, like, as you can imagine, all around, just different people that I didn't really know all of them. And I wasn't really with him the whole time, but I noticed he had a very protective energy around me, though. Like, it was almost like an unspoken, like he was kind of keeping an eye on me to make sure that I was safe. Very protective, like fatherly type energy that I get from Chris. And I will say that, like, he's told me that before this dream that that he feels like a close connection with me because my dad was a Cancer. Number one, was born in July, like Chris, and they have a very similar vibration. But my dad also struggled with addictions, alcoholism, and he died earlier than he needed to because of that. So he also has daughters, Chris Cornell, so he can kind of see it from both sides. So he's kind of been someone that's presented themselves as like a support person to me if I ever needed someone to talk to understand that dynamic a little bit better, to kind of understand even the healing, to facilitate healing around the relationship even between my dad. Because I see Chris as a very honorable person and respectful father. Like, he really did come across as like a true family man. So, and he's like, thank you. I appreciate that because he worked hard for that. It wasn't like being a father came natural. Being a good father was natural, felt natural, but he struggled. He struggled emotionally, and he wasn't always like the best version of himself. And he didn't always feel like he was good enough, a good enough dad. So he questioned that. So he understands what it's like to kind of struggle with depression and be in and out of those kind of periods of time and really worry about how it's affecting your family or your children and your relationship with your children. But so he gets that. So that's kind of where him and I have sort of gotten closer since he's come through. But in the dream, so that's kind of why he was giving me a protective vibe in the dream. So he was just kind of making sure that I was safe at all times. There's just a lot of people around. And I also had him showing me that there were people around him, some that he was close to. Not all of them were like good people or for him, or people that he really like. They didn't all have good energy about them. So some of them kind of felt like they were they had hidden motives, and they weren't really on Chris's side, or that he didn't like them that much, or it was hard to tell. It was just like a feeling, a knowing. And he kind of pointed out telepathically almost through the dream, like who these people were. And then as they were setting up for their show, there's a time where like we were separated, and I was kind of gone for a little bit longer than I planned to be gone, and he was by the stage, and he was texting me, and he was like, where are you at? Where are you at? Up until this point in time, he seemed normal. He seemed fine, confident, like normal. And at this time, he was starting to kind of give off like a paranoid vibe, like really genuinely worried and kind of freaking out about where I was. And I felt bad. And I'm like, ooh, I guess I've been gone too long. I need to go back. And I went back to check on him. And when I went to check on him, I got the feeling that he was just really out of it. Like he just kind of looked like a totally different person. He looked scared. He looked paranoid. It was just something was not right. And the message that I got telepathically from him or through the dream was that there were people that were maybe planning his demise. This is a dream, mind you, so I don't really know who those people were, but just there was a group of people that was people that he knew, that knew he was working on a project of some sort, and it was a project that they didn't want to happen. And the timeline from at the point that he was realizing this was about 6 months to when they were actually planning his death. And it made me realize, like, wow, they're actually going to kill him. They're actually going to kill him. And I was like in the dream having that realization, and then I was like feeling bad for Chris, and then I got the sense that Chris knew that he was picking up on it too, that he was well aware, and that's why he was kind of being protective of me in the dream, because he was making sure that I was safe, because he knew that there were people around him that weren't like on his side fully, or that had these intentions. And yeah, as soon as I had that realization, I saw that information, that's when I woke up. I had that song again, Say Hello to Heaven. I looked up, and that's when I saw him standing by my bed. And I also saw another spirit around, and I believe that spirit was Taylor Hawkins of Foo Fighters, who passed away earlier this year unexpectedly on March 25th. I knew they kind of knew each other. Maybe they were acquaintances through the rock music scene, but the feeling was like he was there too. So anyways, I don't know if there might be a time where I connect with him through one of these messages, but I don't know. Getting back to Chris though, that's pretty much so that was kind of became my like interpretation of what happened. And it was such a close timing to his actual death that it was hard to ignore that type of message coming through in that type of way. So that's it, and the evidence seems to support that in many different ways that I've seen anyways, the conclusions that I've seen. So, but based on how Chris is presenting himself, I can see how some mediums might get confused about him actually wanting to kill himself, because if you're not really sure about those facts, it's easy to say that he was suicidal, because he does have that. He does express himself like he had that sadness, and he did have that paranoia, and that's what I believe he experienced from what he showed me in the dream, that he was kind of not himself those last maybe 6 months or however long in real life. That actually was that he was kind of out of sorts, and maybe other people were picking up on that, and that might be also why people believed he did kill himself. So really interesting. Not a topic I usually talk about, but what I want to say about Chris though is that when I first, so we're going to take it to a high note, because when I first tuned into Chris's energy, before I knew anything about really what actually happened to him, he had me watching that video, Show Me How to Live. And when I tuned into his energy, right away, I picked up on like Christ energy, Jesus energy, crucifixion energy, right away, like just reading his energy. And then I kept seeing, he kept showing me Chris equals Christ. Chris equals Christ. So he has an association with Jesus energy. And after that, I pulled cards asking him, like, what ascended master do you resonate with? And of course, Jesus came out. And so he definitely has a strong, vibe with the crucifixion energy. So would you like to talk about that, Chris? Your relationship with Jesus, or just explain that a little bit more? Yeah, it's like he was like a bit of a martyr. He had a cause. He was very much about the children. He was into, he had a charity that he ran with his wife that was a charitable organization. He started later in his life to help kids in need, needy kids, those who were like homeless, abandoned, abused, neglected. All levels of that, like poor children, domestic violence, that type of stuff. And he's saying that this was like close to his heart. This organization was close to his heart. It was like the way that he felt he could give back. So he's saying, so the Jesus energy it's just like his aura, that it's his divine masculine, divine feminine, Christ consciousness. He really is a high vibrational being of love and light. He got caught up in a dark place, but his higher message, his higher truth was to share love, is what he's saying. How would you describe it? Share the higher truth is what he's saying. It's really, I think he might even have a song called Higher Truth. There's some connection with him saying higher truth so much as well. But he's also saying the reality of world conditions. He just, how are you saying this, Chris? He felt for the suffering of humanity. He felt bad for the ones suffering, and it's like he wanted to bring some peace to the world. He wanted to bring some light to the world, and he wanted to give back to his community in a way that he felt that he was proud of. And it was just a greater calling for him to do that. Just felt like his greater calling and mission, especially in the second half of his life, like once he had become famous and proven himself as a musician at that level of fame, he wanted to give back, and he wanted to support those in need, and the children, the cause of the children was just something close to his heart. And that's something he shared also with Chester. And so there's a relationship and a correlation between, and one of the main reasons for the conspiracy theory too is because of the fact that Chester Bennington played at Chris Cornell's concert and sung the song Hallelujah at his concert which was a couple days after he died. So he died in May 18th. So it was a couple days after, not too long after that Chester performed there. And then 2 months later, Chester killed himself, or was found dead, supposedly due to suicide, on the day of Chris's birthday, and they were like best friends. They were known to be best friends. So that's where the rumors started, really. People really started questioning the narrative, and obviously there seems to be some type of association there, but I haven't really looked too much into Chester because I haven't officially met Chester yet, although I kind of met him a little bit. He sort of came in one time. I was listening to the radio, and I felt his energy kind of coming in. I felt his energy around, but I just haven't made like a really strong connection with him yet. But let's see. I feel like I don't want to stay on too much longer with Chris, so I want to get through some of the questions. So there's that Jesus crucifixion energy with him that you can definitely feel if you just, look at him. He has a Jesus look to him as well. So he's very high vibrational. So there's a lot of Christ consciousness. There's a lot of, like a true light worker, someone that had a lot of light, really, and in a dark place still had a lot of light. And that's coming from me, Chris. So he's kind of quiet right now because I can tell he's not like trying to talk about that so much. It's just, from as an interesting observation for me, because I typically channel ascended masters, and Jesus I'm very close with, and so I can see a definite relationship. And I feel like there's that theme of the crucifixion. It's like dying for a higher cause, for a higher meaning. So truth can come out. And he was saying higher truth, and that makes sense. So let's talk about your starseed heritage really quick. I will share that Amanda Ellis is another medium that is well respected, and she has channeled Chris Cornell before. She shares some of the same perspectives that I do as far as the circumstances around his death. And she shares a lot of the same kind of sense of his energy too that I picked up on with him. But she tuned into your starseed and saw that you were Lyran, that you had a lot of the Lyran energy, which is like very feline, kind of lion energy to you. And I don't channel the Lyrans a lot, so I don't have a really strong sense of their energy. But I was also picking up on Arcturian as well. So with starseed, sometimes you can have more than one. Maybe you have like one predominant than the other, but you can essentially have more than one type of galactic race or heritage within your DNA, or you can have had lifetimes as different ones. And I picked up on Arcturian as well, so just wanted to share that. Okay, back to Chris. What do you want people to know about your music? And how do you feel about the legacy you left behind? What do I want people to know about my music? Just that I loved what I did, and it was an honor. It was an honor and privilege to sing and perform for all of you. Whatever the case may be, he's saying, whatever the style, whatever the band I was in, it was always an honor to perform. To perform the music live is really when I felt like in my true moment. He loved playing the guitar. It's like he loved the acoustic sound as well. He loved like of his voice and of the melody and the harmony with the guitar, and just like he sang his heart out. He's saying he really like put his soul on the table with his music and his lyrics, and he took his songwriting. He considered his songwriting skills to be one of his greatest gifts to the world, but he also honored so many other musicians, and he felt very privileged to sing their music. Especially in the later years, he did a lot of covers. He did covers for, I think, Johnny Cash and Led Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses. Some really beautiful, beautiful songs came out of his later records, and I think even some of those records were produced or came out after his death. But he basically just loved music and he loved singing, so it's more just listen for yourself, and is kind of the feeling. And then what about, how do you feel about the legacy you left behind? It was an honor. It was an honor. He's just saying it was an honor to be Chris Cornell in that time period, and to be connected to the people that he was connected. He was really good friends with Eddie Vedder. He helped Eddie Vedder kind of rise to fame in the early 90s through the Seattle scene. And he just said he just knew a lot of great people. He knew a lot of great musicians. He's very proud of his work. He put his heart and soul into everything he did, so he's very proud of his work. And he's honored that and grateful that people still get so much meaning out of his music today. Like, it really hits the heart chords of people, and it really touches them on a deep level. And he touches like a crowd of people that, like, again, he's kind of showing what he said earlier, that you're catching them at sometimes a very dark place in their life, but it can be very healing for them. And it's like soothing for them to know that there's someone out there that can feel their pain or experiencing that, or struggled with that, what they might be going through, and that they're not alone. So he's very much feeling privileged to have left music behind that still affects people in that way today, and that will live on so many levels, he's saying. He's really well appreciated more even now sometimes for his vocals and who he was as an artist and musician than maybe he even felt at the time that he was alive. He just feels that people are even honoring him more now that he's dead. It's like he feels more privileged even now that he's dead, that his music is kind of risen up in the ranks even. Like there's a memoriam now attached to it, that it's like there's more respect there. People really respect. They really truly miss him as an artist on the scene, and he feels that. He feels that people really loved him, and that he really made a difference and made a mark in people's lives, and continues to be well loved and well received by all of his fans and those who listen to his songs. So that's very beautiful. What advice do you have for mediums looking to expand their intuitive abilities? Because his mom was a medium, so I'm curious what he's going to say about this. I'm all for it, he's saying. I'm all for it. He's like, what do I got to say against it? Now I'm on the other side, and I'm coming through mediums. He's saying, I'm all for going and doing what you're passionate about, doing what you love. Not caring, just breaking the rules, break the rules, go outside the box, go outside the limits, go outside the structure. He's saying explore the different horizons, quite literally, like different dimensions. He's saying don't let others like scare you out of it if that's what you want to do. He's saying, do it. You can make a big difference in the world. You can have a huge impact in the world. You can touch a lot of lives. You can help a lot of people, especially those who've lost loved ones and are grieving for those loved ones. Like in his situation, his mom, knowing his mom has that connection with him and kind of understands and sees the truth, is like very healing for him to know that, that he has that connection through his mom still, and it taught him a lot about what's real, and it feels like he really believed in it, but at the same time, like maybe it wasn't his thing. Like he didn't get so into it when he was alive, but he really did question and ponder like what happens when you die. Again, he lost a lot of friends, and he just feels like mediumship is a wonderful way to connect to other people, is to bring new connections in and to see a different perspective and to not fear death. Really is also something that comes out of that, to not fear the unknown, because it really is a transition that we all will take someday. So there's really nothing to fear, but as far as expanding your gifts, it's more just like tuning into your gifts. Like what are you picking up on? Like how are you picking up on information? You have to share it the way that is true for you. Share the message that is true to how you're getting the message. So again, that be yourself theme is coming in, and it's just like, don't try to be like other people when it comes to even being a medium. When it comes to being a singer, you don't want to try to be like the next guy. You want to be unique to you, your sound, your range. But he's also saying, find your range and push your limits, and don't just stay like in one box, but explore other genres. So, just try to tap in to different potentials. So like, for example, with me being a medium, I tune into different guides, but I mostly tune into ascended masters, archangels, and different like higher dimensional beings. But I step out of my comfort zone and tune into celebrity guides, and I'm willing to do that. But it's not always easy, or it doesn't always feel so comfortable for me or natural, because I'm used to talking more to, just different beings. And it takes me a minute to like really tune to the frequencies of the different guides to make sure I've got that connection that I can trust. But he's saying you have to trust yourself, though. You really have to trust yourself, and you have to trust what you're getting. And it's hard to do that if you're always looking and comparing yourself to other people, what they're getting, because they're going to get a different message. He's saying just look at like what I was saying earlier about all the different mediums that come through. It's like, it's easy to pick up on what you want to hear, or what, like, you don't want to go against the grain. So you're going to say, well, I feel like Chris didn't kill, or did kill himself. It's like, there's all these like innuendos around picking up on energy. It's like you might feel something, but it's the way you interpret it. But you have to stay true to your feelings, your understanding, and just to go with it, go with the flow of things, and see what wants to come. Don't force it. Don't go against your nature. Don't do things you're not comfortable with unless you're ready to do that. It's like you want to step out of your comfort zone, but you want to make sure that you're ready to handle that. And it's almost like, don't go down that road unless you're ready for what comes. So, if mediumship is your thing, then go for it. But if you're not feeling totally comfortable with mediumship, then don't do it. It's kind of like, there's other things to focus on. He's saying some of us, have our gifts and natural talents and abilities and natural desire to do what we feel like we came here to do. So it's really what the higher mission is, what counts. So the higher truth. And so expanding your gifts would be, in summary, if you wanted to say, tune to yourself, like, what do you want to know? Like, what do you feel is right for you when it comes to mediumship, as far as like your style and the people that you channel, or the ways that you channel, and just pick up on what feels right for you. And when you feel that flow, just kind of go with that, go in that direction. And then, if you notice when it changes, notice if it shifts and changes, and you feel called to do something different. Just, if you're feeling it, do it. Then I guess is the kind of the general. It's like, more power to you if you are able to really make a connection and help someone through your abilities as a medium. He feels like that's a very beautiful thing, and that's a true gift. And more people need to know about mediumship as an option, and more people need to take it seriously, he's saying. He didn't feel like he always took it seriously, but had he explored it a little bit more, maybe he would have, but he just feels like, maybe he downplayed that a little bit. But his talents through music and channeling was more about using his intuitive gifts to write music and channel lyrics and share his voice in that way. So he's saying you all have gifts of channeling and intuitive gifts, and you can use them in many different ways. So mediumship is just one way that you can tune to those gifts. All right, thank you so much, Chris. Any last words for us before we go? He's like, no, not really. He's so laid back. He's been kind of quiet. I noticed you feel like it feels like you're not like saying a lot. He's like, I'm not a big talker. He's saying, I'm not a big talker. I'm just like he's more of like a free flow thinker. He's saying he just doesn't have a lot of words to say. He doesn't have, it's more just like a higher message. He's just really here to really help us all like align to our higher truth. That's kind of what the whole Be Yourself song, that's the greater meaning and why he wants that song, is choosing that song for this particular like session to kind of highlight. He just wants to get his message out there, get his truth out there, get his message heard in a different way. There's so many people channeling him and his energy, and it's not that they're picking up on like false energy. It's just there's so much distortion of the truth that it's really hard for people to sift through it. And you know, your own mind is interpreting it through the filters that you know. So he's like, be easy on those mediums, is kind of the feeling he's getting. It's not that they're entirely wrong, but there's just more to the story, and you got to be your own truth seekers. He's saying in order to seek the truth, you have to be willing to find it. So, and you have to be willing to look. So you have to find your own answers. So it's like, don't take someone else's word for it. Just because you think they're a medium, don't take their word for it. Like if something doesn't resonate with you about that, because you know information, it doesn't seem to fit or vibe with what they're saying and sharing, like always do more digging. Like don't just take their word for it because they have a greater connection with spirit than you do. Look for false flags too. Look for people that don't feel very genuine, because not everybody out there doing mediumship is doing it for the right reasons, with like a pure heart and a pure intention behind their work. There's not always a lot of integrity behind their work. So, you know, just be aware, just be tuned into that, tune your radar to that. But yeah, always follow your own intuitive guidance. And generally, he's a very laid back soul. So don't let the circumstances around his death like fool you or scare you into thinking that he's a tortured soul in any way, that he's here for like a comeback, or revenge or something. He feels very calm on the other side. He feels like he's learned his lesson, the higher lesson. He sees the higher meaning and the higher truth in his own life story and how he died, and it feels like he's coming to terms with that, and now he really wants to he's on a mission to help other people kind of see and wake up a little bit, if that's what you're ready for, it feels like. But it's not really his highest mission. It really feels like he's just trying to, how would you put that, Chris? See the higher truth, see the higher meaning, see the higher purpose in life. There's a higher purpose and there's a higher meaning, and tune your awareness to that, and always live from truth, integrity, and follow your heart, follow your passion, do what you love what you do, be yourself, because that's all that you can do, is what he's saying. So he wants you to listen to his music. So it feels like there's people watching this video that he's kind of talking to you. He's like, just listen more to my music. And some of you might like his like solo artist stuff under Chris Cornell. So be sure to look up that. Also, he wants me to point out that his daughter, he was married to 2 different women in his lifetime, and he had children with both of them. From his first marriage, he had a daughter, Lily Cornell Silver, and he wants me to share with you to watch her work. She's doing some really good work on mental health awareness, and she's a beautiful soul, and she really has a very high vibrational spirit and a lot of light, and she's maybe in her early 20s. It feels like she could be like 21 based on what he's showing me, but I'm not 100%. It could be a little bit somewhere around there. But she has a podcast, he's saying, so, or some kind of talk show. And there's some of her information is on YouTube, but basically she brings awareness about mental health, and it's mental health awareness, and it's not just about like having suicidal thoughts, but obviously she's struggled with her own issues since she was younger, and even having lost her father at, I think she was 16 when he passed. So he's just wanting to draw attention to her work because she's out there doing good work. So he very much supports the work that she does, and he's kind of like on the front lines with her, trying to reach souls at that level, trying to help those who are in need, who are suffering, and just need a little extra help, is what he's saying. So thank you, Chris, for being here. He's like, you're very welcome. I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very thankful and grateful that you took the time to bring me on. And it feels like I'll be seeing him again is kind of the feeling. And it feels like Chester is around, or will be around, and will be eventually showing up sometime on my channel, and possibly Taylor Hawkins too. It's kind of a vague vibe with him. Like he's not giving me like specifics right now, but he feels very chill right now to me, and laid back. So it feels like there's no rush. He's saying there's no rush. You've got a lot of work to do. You've got a lot of work on your plate. He's like, I'm not, we're not trying to push this on you, but whenever the time is right for you. But he is very appreciative that I'm doing this in honor of his birthday coming up, and he does want to thank me for that, and for getting the word out and getting the message out, and having the courage to share this in a more public way. But thank you so much, Chris. You're welcome, and is what he's saying. And thank you to all, he's saying, for being here. And that's it for now. So we will see you next time. Not sure who the next celebrity guide I will officially bring in. It may be Chester. It could be somebody else. I have a few that have kind of been showing up for me recently. John Denver is one of them, who came in and visited me in my dreams not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. Haven't checked in with him yet, though. So, and I've also met Princess Diana. So there's a couple on my list, Michael Jackson, and Prince. So we'll see who pops in next. But I really appreciate you for watching. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. And if you enjoyed this content, or if you, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this interview with Chris, and how he presents to you, and how you resonate with this, with his message. And would just love to hear more from you in the comments. But that is all for now. Much love to all of you. We'll see you next time. Bye.